I think this is an awesome episode. My friend Ruth, who also helps me with my dogs, she stays at our house when we're out of town, came today to chat. We chatted about so many things. She's working on a documentary called The Silent Goldens, which you can check out hopefully maybe next summer. But if you're interested in information about it, you can go to thesilentgoldens.com. You can donate to her project if you'd like at that website. But we had a great conversation about so many things. I don't even know how to list them. About suicide, about moving, about mental stuff, disorders and stuff, and depression, about happiness, about all kind of dogs, about living an out-of-the-box lifestyle. It was a pretty great conversation. I have amazing friends. I mean, not to be braggy, but I have amazing friends. And I think I have a very diverse group of friends. And this is one of my friends. So, and my podcast, one of my intentions was to share my friends with the world because I think they're pretty special. So I hope you enjoy my friend Ruth because I enjoyed my friend Ruth. And thank you for emailing. I read every single email. I may not respond, but I read them and I appreciate them so very much. Even the ones that tell me what I've maybe done wrong. How would I know I've done something wrong if someone doesn't tell me? So please keep the emails coming. And I hope you enjoy my friend Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
Hi, Leanne.
How are you?
I'm getting tired.
You're getting tired?
Yeah.
How come?
Well, I've been helping my friend move all week.
Oh, yeah. Me. That would be me. I'm getting tired, too. I'm so flipping tired. I really appreciate your help this week. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. But no, I can imagine how tired you are because I'm starting to feel it. And
yeah, I'm really tired. And I feel bad for my dogs. Ruth, it does, I think, a lot of things for our family. But one of the main things you do is stay with our dogs when we go out of town.
Yes.
And we moved into our new house, but it's not finished. It's still in the process of being remodeled. But because Bert's only home for a short period of time, we wanted to live there as much as he could so he could enjoy it. So we moved in anyway, but it's really not dog ready because we don't have a deck off the back porch, which is the only way to access the backyard. So we have like the joists of the deck, but not the decking.
Right.
So we've left the dogs at our old house and we're taking turns sleeping over there. We're rotating. Bert slept over there last night, which I was really surprised because he got home like the day before and slept that night in our new house. And then he was like, I'll sleep with the dogs. Oh my God. They were so excited to see him.
I would think so.
Mac lost his complete mind. He was so excited.
Oh
and it made Bert feel like $1 million.
I wish I had film of that.
He filmed it.
Okay.
I'm sure it's on Instagram somewhere. Bert filmed Mac's reaction.
Because I was wondering about that because you said he didn't want to go back to the old house because he'd already said goodbye. And then I was like, well, but if they can't bring the dogs there, is he just going to go a whole nother week without seeing his dogs?
No. That answer to that was no. Bert lives in a very grand world and makes very big statements like, I can't go back to this house ever. But, his sister's going to live there.
Right.
So we're clearly going back to this house. So I think once he got here and he came to the new house and he felt like, okay, we're actually really in this house, I think it changed how he felt.
But also all the stuff's gone too. So it's not like his house anymore. It's just the house.
Yeah.
That's now going to be the rental.
That's true. Moving stinks.
It's hard.
It is, right?
Oh, yeah.
When was the last time you moved yourself?
Well, fully was about 2.5 years ago when I was able to give up my apartment because of my dog sitting career. I live in other people's houses usually. So I moved all my stuff pretty much to storage. And then now I move all the time. So, but I'm more on the go move. Like I randomly go back to storage if I'm, at a house without cable or whatever. I'll go get my TV with my Roku, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Then I'll put it back. So, I use my storage, but full on moving. It was 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So can I ask you some questions about your vagabond life?
Please.
I think it's cool as crap. I think it's really smart because you're single,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you're working on your documentary, which we talked about a little bit when you were on the podcast last time, your documentary about your mom who committed suicide and how that affected your family. It's called The Silent Goldens.
Thank you. Yes.
And where can anybody find information about that?
Thesilentgoldens.com.
Awesome. So you decided Now I feel like I'm putting words in your mouth, but I want to make sure I understand what you did.
It kind of all worked out simultaneously. Because when I decided to really focus on my documentary and stop working in television, the money kind of stopped too. And so when I was working in TV and traveling a lot of my friends had taken care of my dog, and he had died. And so they kind of had started asking me to sit with their dogs. Mm-hmm. And so kind of word of mouth, it kept growing and growing. And finally it reached a point about 2.5 years ago where it was like, I'm away more than I'm at home, and I'm not charging that much because I was trying to build business, lowballing myself. So I'm like, I'm basically I'm working all the time to pay for the place I'm not staying.
Right. That
instead of getting paid to stay at these beautiful homes.
Right.
So I switched that. I found a place where I could crash in between jobs, and pay per night. And then I've technically been homeless since.
Well, are you
not
homeless?
Technically, because I always have a place to go. So I shouldn't say that.
And you have a place for your stuff.
But
I mean,
I don't have an address, basically.
You have like a P.O. box?
Yeah, I have a P.O. box. But I'm saying I don't have a home base, but right. I have places to go. So.
Does that ever make you feel, does that ever bother you?
No, I mean, the weirdest time was actually when the pandemic started, because usually I like to be alone. And when I'm staying at other people's homes, it's just me and the dogs. But at that time, the place my in-between place was with another person. So where everybody else was getting locked down by themselves and freaking out, that was kind of my dream scenario. And here I am, like now in a small condo with another person.
Oh my gosh.
So the dog was good because I took it out like 5 times a day just to get out of the house. But It was very strange just suddenly living with another person.
How about that?
Yeah.
People in general are so fascinating because you only have your own perspective. Because how could you have someone else's? Right. You've only lived your life. And I think it's so fascinating to hear other people's way of living. And I think it's amazing what you do. My dad has a friend that has always been kind of similar his whole life, where he's always found a place where he could barter for rent. Mm-hmm. He barters for everything, even to this day.
Wow.
And because he wanted to fish all day. Mm-hmm. So he would say, you take me on your boat, I'll show you where to catch fish. And he's just a tradesman in that way. He just trades for everything to this day.
That's smart.
And I thought, what a way to facilitate your own happiness. Not everything's about money or achievement or all these things that we're, quote, supposed to be after. Right. Maybe it's just about happiness. Yeah. And that guy, never saw him unhappy. We call him Captain Dave. Never seen him unhappy. Now he's older now and he's having some health issues. And now things are getting a little complicated.
Right.
But up until, he's 72 or 3. So he lived all these years from a couple years out of college until now, just sort of going where life took him,
right.
And living in somebody's back house for free. And he'd do repairs around their house or whatever his trade was. And I was like, that's actually so freaking cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the formula we're fed.
Right. Yeah, which took me a long time to come to terms with.
It did?
Yeah. And I think the reason I was able to start doing this is because I had my documentary. So it's like this was a way to facilitate giving myself time to do it, as well as, a way to make some money doing something I liked. And kind of that naturally came to me because I have a hard time like concentrating and shifting things. So shifting, I can't even think of the word.
Tasks?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I knew I couldn't do 2 full-time jobs,
right.
But this has been hard for me too. It's been more of a struggle than I have, only because my own self-discipline,
What do you mean? What's been a struggle? Working on your documentary? Or?
Yeah, just, being not working on it, but just giving myself the time and space because it's labor intensive.
Totally.
Just looking through the footage and stuff. So, I'm not like, I don't work an hour here and an hour there. I need like 3 hours just to sit down and bang it out. And, partly because I love what I do, I never say no. So keep going. But, but it's also, it is a lot harder than I thought. It's not just like you walk the dog and then there's time because they're there and you love them and you want to play with them. And, so it is more time consuming than in my brain it was going to be when I started doing it.
Right.
But I love it. So
it's like having children. I thought to myself, as soon as Isla gets to kindergarten, I can write again. Big, no.
Exactly.
No way. I still am barely writing. And she's almost 15. She'll be 15 this weekend. So it's a big misnomer and some of those things. Dogs are like kids and you want to be with them and you want to play with them and you want to walk with them and you want to tuck them in the yard. And then all of a sudden you've done nothing with your day, including like your laundry. Right. I mean, like nothing. So kids are the same way. I'd much rather be hanging out with my kids and playing games or in the pool or riding bikes or something. So I see what you mean. So when I first met you, you were much heavier.
Really?
Yes. You seem a lot lighter.
Oh, like emotionally?
Yes.
Not
Not
really.
Because your ass was really big, Ruth. No, you were heavier emotionally. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Well, thank you for noticing.
But you're a lot lighter.
Because I was like, no, I've gained. But I feel it. I think because I'm trying to think. It was about 3 years ago, I think. Already.
At least 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5, 3, something like that.
Yeah, I was still kind of at the beginning trying to get like all the writing done to get this thing even going. Mm-hmm. I think it was before maybe I'd even filmed anything. So once I started filming and people started talking, like I could see where the story was heading.
Got it.
And stuff. So that's probably it. Plus, I think just the talking itself has done a lot of good.
Of course.
I mean, my relationship with my dad is so different now because, I mean, basically the premise of the film is that, my mom died when I was 19 and in college. And then my family just didn't talk about it. Like a lot of families back then, suicide is not something you talk about. So 30 years down the line, I started hating my life in television. And, I was just, my own depression was catching up with me and all that stuff. And finally I realized, this needs to be talked about. Like, this is obviously something on my mind and it's kind of stupid not to talk about it. So I just asked if we could and we did. And it hasn't changed anything in these great ways. Like, I don't call home every day going, I love you, Daddy.
Yeah.
But, I feel like all our conversations are real. Even if we're talking about the weather, it's like, because I'm listening to him, I don't have that thing anymore of like, why aren't we talking about it? Why aren't we talking about it? Even though I didn't need to all the time, the fact that we never had just put this whole thing around it. So I think just the fact that I'm now free to say it and it's also given me purpose and because I've become involved in volunteering and helping other like recent survivors. I do a peer support thing with them. So it's given me a purpose, I think, that I no longer found in producing television.
And that you didn't have before you were talking about it with your family, right? If it was something that was so, I don't know if it was taboo or if it was just denial or what was going on with your family with why it wasn't spoken about, but it leaves you stunted, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It stunts your development. Mm-hmm. And so you can't, I mean, we're developing all the time. I'm still growing and developing. But if you keep banging up against the same wall, it doesn't matter what therapy you do. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what, sage you smudge yourself with, how many psychics you talk to. If you keep banging up against that same wall, you can't go any further. And
also when it's there for so long, it does so much more damage. Because I do this little YouTube series called Talking About Suicide Loss where I ask other loss survivors 3 basic questions. Did you talk about it initially? Why did you decide to go public with your story? And how did it change your relationship to your grief? And this one woman she actually lost her mom when she was in high school and her family, like my family, it wasn't taboo. Nobody said, don't talk about it. We just kind of didn't. It was, I guess, generational and just our own weirdness. But with her aunt said, no, it was a heart attack. You were telling people it's a heart attack.
Oh my God.
She didn't. She lost friends. She lost a boyfriend and she found nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to help her. And so the line that always stuck with me that she said was, I always wonder who I would have been if that hadn't have happened.
Oh my God.
And that's kind of the same for me because my mom was a social worker and I think I was depressed since birth, but I wasn't a great teenager in terms of like figuring out stuff I liked and where I was going. So I was just kind of following the path and I'm pretty sure I would have been a social worker. So that's always sort of been a guilt thing for me that I went into television, not social work. So for me, this kind of combines the two. It's like my social service gene kicked in.
Right.
And it does make me feel good, but I don't have to like be a social worker. I can use that in something that I found that I do love too, which is telling stories and making video entertainment.
Yeah. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool when you can have a transformation as an older person. We're not old, but older than your 20s.
No, I was 50. It was approaching my 50th birthday when I got the light bulb.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I just turned 50. So I know it's kind of a moment in life where you go, I kept going, I'm halfway over. I'm halfway done because I will live to 100. I'm determined. But I mean, pretty much you're halfway done. Like it's all downhill from here. And it's kind of not depressing, but awakening, that, wow, maybe you should start paying attention to certain things like my health. For me, I just went, okay, all bets are off. I've always resisted getting a trainer because I, quote, don't need one. I need one. I'm now having pains in places. I'm now having a hard time getting up off the floor unassisted, and I'm not even fat. So I'm losing muscle. I need to get some professional in here to tell me how to get myself healthy. So that was a big thing for me once I turned 50. But I think that midlife crisis of back in the day is something similar where someone goes, oh, wow, this thing is broken and has been broken all my life. What have I wasted? What time have I wasted? What do I do now? How do I fix it now? I would imagine that's how a lot of people feel when they come up against some emotional wall.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it all came to a head in a Target when I took my dog, who was 10 at the time, or no, he was 12. I had him for 10 years, or he was 11. Anyway, I took him just for his regular checkup. And the doctor found something in his stomach, took an x-ray. She's like, I need to send you for a biopsy. Sent me like up to Woodland Hills, dropped him off. They said it was going to take 3 hours. It was about 11 in the morning. I hadn't had breakfast, anything to drink. So I went to Target to get something. And I just remember thinking in my head, walking in the door, like, I don't know what to do with myself anymore. And then I grabbed a soda. And instead of going to checkout, I went to customer service. I said, I don't feel well. And I fell down in a complete panic attack.
Oh my God.
I ended up in the ER. And then just complete depression to the point.
Oh my God.
Where because I'm not married and don't have a family other than my dad and sister, I called my dad and said, I have no coping mechanisms left. Like I do not know what to do with myself.
Oh my God.
So he helped me find some help. Yeah. So, I mean, I cracked, because I never let myself believe that any of this could affect me. I'm like, that was her thing. That was her decision.
Oh.
She wanted us to, because she had cancer and, it was this whole long story. Like they didn't even tell us how bad the cancer was and all this stuff. So, but her whole focus was me and my sister were in college and everything was about the education. So she didn't want to distract us. And this whole thing. So, everything was blindsided. And then I felt like, well, she killed herself so we could go on, and have this beautiful life. And then I never achieved that. And I didn't follow the path I thought she wanted. So there was all of these guilt.
Oh, so much guilt.
Plus, I think I was born with depression. And I mean, I can count now that I know what it is and was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. I can count about 13 episodes from childhood on.
Really?
Yeah, of major.
How young were you when you first remember?
Pretty early, I think, definitely elementary school, maybe 8 or 9.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Just insecure, just not wanting to go places, always crying, and I think even in kindergarten, whenever there was an assembly, I'd start crying and they had to send me to the nurse's office. I just didn't want to join. I was forced, and my parents sent me to summer camp and I always hated it. And everybody thought I was homesick, but I'm like, well, knowing myself now, I'm pretty sure I just didn't want to be forced to live in a bunk with 9 other girls and be told what to do every hour of the day.
But how is that depression?
Well, no, I'm saying because I just wanted to be by myself and just sit in my room and read a book.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that was depression, but I remember there was a bullying episode in 4th grade, that this girl said she was gonna, it was maybe anxiety mixed with depression, but she said she was gonna tell the police I stole some gum when I didn't. And for months, this harbored on me till I was sick of hearing police sirens. And I remember on summer vacation, like crying to my mom that I thought the police were after me.
Oh my God.
Because this girl told somebody I stole some gum. Like that kind of thinking that just wrapped up in my own self. I can't believe I'm saying this in public.
It sounds to me like anxiety. It sounds exactly like what happens in Bert's brain. Yeah. It's just not just anxiety, but it's anxiety. It's simply anxiety. And, Georgia had a major panic attack 2 nights ago where she came in the back door shaking, heart just pounding. Oh, wow. And she said, I don't feel good. She was white. I had her sit down and I said, what's going on? She said, I'm having a panic attack. I haven't had one of these in a long time, but I'm definitely going to die. And I was like, no, girlfriend, you're not going to die. This is a panic attack and you're going to be okay. Let's ride it out together. And I just sat with her on the couch and held her shoulders and held her hand, and she squeezed my hand and we tried to practice breathing, and eventually it went away.
Wow.
And that's for her specifically, it's triggered by, I think it's triggered by stress, and we're moving.
Right.
And I was like, there's no wonder. I mean, even under the best of circumstances, moving is stressful. And she and her sister had to help me a lot with this move. So, but I look at that and I go, that is her chemical makeup. There is no person who would want that to be their reality. Nobody was like, "Ooh, I think I'll have an anxiety attack." No one would want that. And I think it was so misunderstood when we were kids, or maybe not even known. I don't think where I grew up, anybody knew what anxiety was. Couldn't even define the word. I mean, when my mom had me go to therapy with her once because she was convinced I was the problem in our relationship. And the therapist, after talking to me, was like, no, she just has some anxiety. But it's like normal early 20s anxiety. And that was the first time I'd actually heard that word related to like someone's state of being.
Right.
I don't know, maybe when I'd heard it before, it hadn't meant anything. But I was like, oh, so anxiety is when I am biting my fingernails.
Right.
That's anxiety. Oh, okay. Now I know what that is.
Yeah, I didn't learn that till my 20s. Because
me neither. I was early 20s.
Yeah, I went to a therapist once over some crisis, and because they asked if I was anxious. And to me, anxiety was like, oh my God, what are we going to do next? Like, I don't know. Yeah, and I was never like that. Everybody always called me very easygoing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm easygoing. But then when I realized it's the constant thoughts and the
ruminating.
Planning. Yeah.
It's the
Whereas
ruminating.
my mom called it perseverating. And that's how I know I always did it, because my whole childhood, because that's a clinical term.
Yes, it is.
She kept saying, stop perseverating.
Yeah.
Of course.
Isn't that interesting?
Because as a social worker, you think she'd realize you can't tell somebody to stop.
Right? Because that's what they do. They continue.
But the depression, when we moved to Texas, I was going into 7th grade when we moved to Texas. So 11 going on to 12.
That's a tough year to move.
It's a tough year to move. Talk about culture shock. And I was
Where'd you move from?
From the suburbs of New York City, Larchmont, to Galveston, Texas.
To Galveston. Lord.
Exactly. And so I was super angry. Like at first I was thrilled. I was like, oh, change. I love it. And then I got to school, hated it, like didn't make any friends, the whole thing. And that's, I got super angry. And at one point my parents said like, do you want to see a therapist? And then I said, no. Why? Do you think I'm crazy? And like turn my attitude around enough, because I think I just wanted somebody to notice. But since that point on, like I didn't care about making friends. I had like one friend a year, and I didn't want to get involved in any of the social activities, or it was just let me watch TV and it'll come to me later.
Right. The friends will show up when I need them. And people process the world differently. Bert processes the world with huge crowds all the time. I would never be able to do that. Never. And nothing's wrong with that. With either one. We're just all different. I think we as a society try too hard to get everybody to fit in this one little box. And I have one kid who does not fit in any box. And I watch it affect her negatively sometimes. And it breaks my heart, because I think all the things that keep you out of the box are the things that make you amazing. And when you're an adult, the world is a lot easier, because then you can decide, I'm going to get rid of my apartment. I'm going to dog sit and I'm going to work on my documentary. And either you don't really give a shit, or the people that you surround yourself with because they love you don't give a shit either.
Right.
But in school, you're forced into a peer group, whether you're close to those peers or not. You're forced into this, congregation of kids that have judgments or that do just fit in the box.
Right.
There are some kids who just are in the box, and
but that's the problem, is that there is the box at all. So yeah, because it's like, it's not the kids always putting pressure on each other, but it's, you have to get a certain grade, or it's
society.
You have to
it's
get
our
test scores.
Culture.
Yeah.
Culturally, things are just sometimes, I think, as much as we try to be liberal and open, or we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, even the people I know who are liberal are very closed to any ideas other than their own liberal ideas, which is not open.
Right.
That's still as specific as the conservative person you quote hate.
Right. You're
both rigidly attached to your own ideas and not open to someone else's way of living. I mean, not to get political, but our whole country was built on that principle that
right.
we could all live however we wanted, and that was celebrated actually,
right.
and supported, or at least that's the way I thought it was, intended, is that Protestant and a Catholic could be neighbors, right. and not kill each other.
Right.
But anyway, I don't know. I find it shocking that so many things haven't changed, not to mention race problems in this country, but things like that. Like, I feel like we've gone backwards, sort of. But
I think the only thing I've noticed, like, that's sort of rigid in myself, is my best friend that moved out of here when her daughter was 8, and so because I was always freelance even before I started dog sitting, I was able to help her, like, pick her up from school and stuff a lot. So I remember, like, she'd talk about things that happened with teacher or whatever. I'm like, or she just didn't want to do her homework, so it didn't matter. I'm like, we could never have gotten away with that. Like, no, you listen to your teachers.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not like that anymore. Like, they have give back and forth with their teachers.
Yeah.
And so I know, like, because of the way I was brought up, I'm like, no, you have to do it that way.
Yeah, that is very true. There's a lot of that kind of loosey-goosiness
mm-hmm.
that, yeah, we didn't have any loosey-goosey. If the teacher said it, the parent was on the teacher's team.
Right.
That is not the way it works.
Right. And so I was always like, well, in my day,
yeah, right.
I don't want to be that person, but it made sense to me because it makes sense.
It does make sense. And that's kind of the philosophy I've always had too, is if the teacher assigns homework, you do your homework. I don't care what else you have going on. You got to be at death's door sick for me to say no to homework. And homework's only 10% of your grade. You could blow the whole homework off and probably not even affect your grade. But that's not the point. The point is the teacher said, do it, and you just do it.
Right.
Sorry. It's kind of how, it's another thing I say to my kids is, a society has to have rules. They have to, or we couldn't function. So we've all agreed to live by these rules.
Right.
So then you can't just go, they don't apply to me.
Right.
Then that's not fair. And that's not how it works. Then what if everybody said, well, murder being illegal doesn't apply to me? Well, then I can't. That's ridiculous.
Which is the only thing political I'll say, which is what many people in this country seem to have forgotten, that we're supposed to be living in a society, and society has rules.
Yes, it does.
And we all have to kind of conform to certain rules.
Yes.
We all have our individual freedoms to be who we want. But
yes,
there are rules to keep us all safe and happy and healthy.
Yes, there's a base.
Yes.
There's a base we all start from.
And then community.
I know, right? It's called civic duty. I am big on civic duty.
It's hard though, because with the suicide thing, like, I won't get political at all.
Yeah.
I've never posted anything political because I'm just like, I can't alienate half the people that need to hear my message,
Right. No,
it's that bad right now that if you do say that, like, you will turn off people who won't listen to you talk about suicide.
It's so true.
Of your politics.
I agree with you. And you know what's really funny is I see good things in both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely do. And I have to say, the people who are conservative accept that far better than the people who are liberal, in my experience.
Interesting.
So if I say, well, I think ABC is good over here on the conservative
mm-hmm.
side, and I think DEF is good over here on the liberal side, why can't we, like, come in the middle?
Right.
The conservative side, when I go back home, my family is far more willing to hear what I have to say. Now, that's my experience of my family. I don't know, and the people I talk to back home when I go home. But if I say something like that here, holy, ripped a new asshole, where I'm like, wow, okay, never mind. Note to self, I won't tell you any of my opinions anymore because that's not fair. I should be able to have my opinion and hear yours and let it affect me.
And
Maybe you'll change
my whole
my
thing
mind.
is fairness. And I just think, whatever happens, you got to meet in the middle.
Right.
I always say, like, I used to read, when I lived in New York, there was the New York Post, which is, the conservative. And then there was Spy Magazine, which was like the ultra liberal, almost parody magazine. And I'm like, I'll read them both. And the truth is somewhere in the middle.
That's true. It's true. Very true. Very true. So, when do you think you'll be done with your documentary?
I'm hoping. I've actually started post-production.
Nice.
Yeah, I was trying. Part of the problem I realized is it's very hard to go from like, it's very easy to put something together when somebody gives you like the budget and the resources and whatever, versus you trying to have they want you to put together the story versus starting with the story and then having to put together all the resources. So I kind of tried to do it the right way and get all the resources, but I was able to film enough that I'm like, I have enough that I'm just going to make it what I can right now and see if any more resources come my way. So I started with the director. We're in post-production right now. I'm hoping to finish that by the end of the fall, get it to my reel editor to make it look pretty. And then by next spring, be able to premiere it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because it'll be, I think, 5 years then since I started it.
Wow.
And I have, for 2 years now, I'm supposed to give a presentation at a national convention that's been postponed now because of COVID. And then they postponed it. It was supposed to be the end of August or the end of July, but this month, but they postponed it another year. So I feel like that's kind of like, that's the sign.
Right.
Like, so I can premiere it because it's a conference for long-term suicide loss survivors, which is where I first got my idea fully validated. I went to their first ever conference. Now this will be their second conference. So if I can have it completed and see, I told you guys.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That would be so powerful for you.
So
that's awesome.
that's my goal.
That's a good goal. Yeah. Really good goal. It's got to feel, how does it make you feel? Like, how has it changed you in relation to your mom?
It's definitely, I feel like it's brought her back to life again. Because not only did we not talk about her death, we just really didn't talk about her at all. Like, it was always awkward bringing her up. Because my dad also got married a year and a week after she died. So even my sister, when I finally started talking to her about why didn't she ever bring it up, she's like, well, Connie came into the picture so early, like I didn't feel I could, or I didn't want to hurt her feelings or whatever. But so to me, it's like, I'll talk about her. Like, I just was home for a week and I was talking about her left and right. Oh, did mom say this? Did mom say that? And it doesn't bother my stepmother. Right. And
why should it, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, to me, it's like, that's always been the thing about death versus divorce. Yeah. It's like, with death, you can still love the person and people can appreciate that you hold them up on this pedestal. Divorce
ain't that the truth?
Won't work that way.
No, it don't.
So I've never felt like she had to go away, you know, but it was just weird that she did. So I think that's been the biggest thing. And just hearing stories from other people, because don't forget, I only had 19 years worth of stories. I hadn't really started asking her all about her childhood yet or her relationships or anything like that. So hearing other stories kind of makes her like, more, I can see a movie of her more than just the pictures that were left in the photo albums.
Right. So you feel more connected to her?
I think so. I mean, it's weird because I'm not one of those people. With my dog, I did feel his presence. With people, I've never felt like, oh, they're watching over me or anything. But I don't know. It just feels like, you know, she's still there. Like, you don't have to get rid of people just because they die. You know, they're still part of your life, and celebrating them is part of the legacy.
And she's part of your cellular makeup.
Exactly.
I mean, you are from her.
I look like her, so it's pretty hard to get away from that.
You do. I've seen pictures on your posts and stuff, but I don't remember thinking, oh, Ruth looks like her mom.
Well, I always thought I did, but some people have said I look more like my dad, but and I always go for the nose look, and she had the bigger nose. So.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I think it's really awesome that you're making this because when someone commits suicide in your life, you have so many questions and so much pain that has no salve.
Right.
There's just so many things you can't resolve. And I personally, with the suicides that's happened in our lives, mine and Bert's, we feel responsible in some way, even if logically, there's no way, but there's this awful feeling that I coulda, woulda, shoulda, that just stays with you forever. We just found my wedding pictures, and one of our groomsmen died by suicide. And I'm flipping through, and I saw his bright smile and his fun face, and he was so gorgeous. And his girlfriend at the time was just a complete disaster, and she's in all the pictures, and had a laugh a minute about this girl that he brought to the wedding that was just a disaster. And I really missed him. And I thought, dang, if there was anything we could have done again. Yeah. And it's been, let's see, how long ago did he pass away? Probably 7 or 8 years ago. It just kind of doesn't really completely go away.
Yeah. And things trigger it. I mean, I know like when Kate Spade died, she, at first, I actually didn't totally know she was a person.
You thought she was a handbag?
I thought it was a brand name. But when I was reading about her, she was around my age. So I was thinking about that. But then I read she had a 13-year-old daughter. And then I wasn't thinking about Kate Spade anymore. Yeah. All I was thinking about was her daughter. Because I just went right back there. Like, is anybody talking to this girl? Like, what would help? Because that's my perspective of it. But, and one of those interviews I did for my YouTube thing, this girl, it was funny because she said the same words to me I always say to people, which is everybody's story is the same. It's like, I mean, everybody's story is different, but they're all the same. Yeah. Because we're all left with the same things. Yeah. I mean, there's things, I don't feel totally responsible for my mom's death, but there's things I feel responsible for that could have made her feel worse and might have pushed her over the edge, but everybody has that with somebody, right? And that's one of the sucky things. And that's why, especially, talking about it in general helps, but especially talking about it with other people who've lost somebody is really the only, it's like any trauma. Like I thank God I've never survived sexual abuse. So I'd have a hard time having an empathetic or, fully empathetic conversation with somebody that had, but I totally do it all the time with people that have lost someone to suicide, because hearing each other's stories, like it just helps validate, hearing somebody that's experienced it helps the new people understand that what they're going through is normal, but helping them helps me resolve my own grief. So.
Totally. It's amazing how powerful talk therapy is. And I don't mean necessarily with a therapist, but to talk to another survivor of whatever trauma is so powerful. I get so many emails from people saying, I love to hear you talk about your relationship with your mom because I never knew anybody besides me who had that mom or dad. And it's such a relief to know that someone else had that same experience. Obviously, it's not the same. But,
but it's the same ramifications.
Yeah, it's the same because I believe my mom has some borderline personality disorder stuff. I believe that. She's not been diagnosed. Right. I believe that. And from all the books that I've read, it's very clear to me that I'm pretty right on track. So, and I didn't know that, this sounds really stupid. I didn't know they wrote books about stuff like that. I just didn't. And then I was really old before I figured out, hey, there may be a book about that.
They probably didn't write them for a long time.
No, they have. For really? BPD people?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Borderline personality disorder.
I've only heard about that in the last 20 years.
Yeah, but that's 20 years ago. I was 30. I guess you're right. And 20 years ago, I thought I was about 12.
Well, I still feel I'm 12, so.
Right? I get lost track of my own age. But yeah, I remember when I first found a book that described what it was like to live with someone with what I think is going on with my mom. I couldn't believe it. I was like, someone just snuck in my room and took notes of my entire childhood and they wrote a book about it. But these were other people's stories.
Oh, right.
But they were my story. And it was like the biggest weight had been lifted off my shoulders because I thought it was definitely mostly me. Like what was going on with my mom was mostly me, that I definitely was some kind of a really bad person. And then when I read that, I was like, oh, actually, I'm not a really bad person. She's just really unhealthy. Yeah. And it's not actually her fault. This is not something that she can help. Right. Doesn't mean I have to endure it, but
it gives you understanding. It gives you compassion
and forgiveness.
Right.
And forgiveness is freedom.
Right.
If you can forgive, you are free. And
you don't have to forget, though.
You don't have to forget, nor should you forget, because to forget is to be a fool, I think. Because then you just keep making the same mistake over and over again. And you continue a bad cycle if you forget. So, but forgiving is so very hard and easy. And it's just like, it's the key to all happiness.
But I think like in your situation, much like in mine, there's plenty of people that have had the same experience. They're just not talking about it.
Totally. Or they don't even know that it's abnormal.
Right.
Like, I hear from a lot of people who are from small towns. And that's one amazing thing that podcasting has done for, I think, mental health in general, is to bring awareness to the nooks and crannies where this is not okay to talk about out culturally where people live. It definitely wasn't okay to talk about where I lived culturally. So I think that's such a gift that podcasting has been able to, not just from talking like we're talking, but from legit, like
absolutely
psychology type podcasting and hidden brain, how the brain works. But that kind of, I don't know, enlightenment sounds like a big word, but it is kind of enlightenment it's just so powerful and can be so healing to people. That I don't know. I think it's really cool where the time we're in now is a really interesting time because there are people who are, and it also, part of me makes me sad because I think about the Southern men I grew up with that are very specific, that now have their horizon has been broadened by many different TV shows being accessible and podcasts, and they've become more worldly. I feel like those nook and cranny type personalities are going to start being very homogenized. And, part of those nook and crannies are maybe not politically correct, but they're pretty freaking fantastic and specific and interesting and cool. And I'm bummed about that, that may be changed.
Yeah. No, I agree because like for me, New York is a great example because when I moved there in 1987, you were hard pressed to find a McDonald's. Okay. And everything was just its own restaurant. And then I was working at MTV in 91, 92 in Times Square, and they put in an Olive Garden.
Oh my God.
And that's when New York started just becoming like any other big city.
Right.
You can go to London, you see the same stores. Tokyo, probably same stores. I mean, a few different. But because I used to travel a lot. And after a while, it just became like, why would I just go to another big city in a foreign country when I'm just going to see the same things I can see right outside my doorstep? But it also made New York depressing, too, because it's like, I don't need to go to the Olive Garden in Times Square.
Right.
There's
interesting you say that. I went to Vietnam with Sandy. And she hadn't been there in a while. And Vietnam had no fast food the last time she was there. And like every 4 blocks, there was a KFC. And she was like, I actually don't think my husband should come back here. I think this would make him extremely depressed because it's changing. Everything becoming global is wonderful and very unfortunate at the same time,
I think the last time I went to Paris was like 15, maybe even longer ago. And I'll just never forget driving from the airport. I saw a billboard for Disneyland, Paris, and then for IKEA. I'm like, where am I?
Wait, am I in Anaheim?
Did I leave anywhere?
Or there's the Eiffel Tower. Is this Vegas? Or I'm so confused. How crazy.
Right?
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's France.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. Part of it's good because we can get around more and see more and do more, but it is a little sad how
it is.
It's everything's so globalized.
It is a little sad. And, it's easier life, I think, in a lot of ways. But like, my grandparents grew every single thing they ate.
Really?
They grew obviously they bought Oreos and stuff like that. They weren't completely in a cave. But my grandmother had a full garden. So if there was a vegetable on her table, 90% chance it came from her yard. And, they grew cattle for beef. They raised cattle for beef. So if we ate that, a lot of the times it was from their stock. So nobody does that anymore. I mean, it's so rare. And that was common. Like her brother lived down the street, totally big vegetable garden. Like all her relatives, all her age group grew so much of their own fresh fruits and vegetables. I mean, she had a lot of fruit. She had strawberries, blackberries. I don't remember if she had blueberries, but she had apples, muscadine, peaches, and all on her property.
Well, I saw you putting in a cherry tree.
I got 2 cherries, 2 plums,
Nice.
an orange, and 2 apple trees. It's ode to her and my pop. I was super close to them. I miss them terribly. But yeah, a lot of this property is recreating in a modern way what they had. So I'm going to have a vegetable garden too when this is all settled. But I never fancied myself that person. It's so interesting how your childhood affects you so strongly. I was such a country girl, and then at 7, my parents divorced, and my mom moved me to Atlanta, like in the middle of Midtown, and I had no kids on my block, no friends, and I was left this huge open country, cousins everywhere. Food on the table was grown in the yard, kind of thing. And then I ended up going back there for high school, and I'm surprised at, from 7 to 13, I lived in Atlanta, which is pretty formative years. But I really am much more that person from the farm than I am the person from the city. The person from the city's there for sure,
right.
But in a lot of the way I think and is from the farm. I'm so fascinated by that now that I'm getting older at how my accent is getting worse. And I haven't lived there since 93. And it's getting worse as I get older. Not that worse is a bad thing. It's getting thicker. I shouldn't say worse. It's getting stronger. It's going back to what it was before I left. And I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with it. I just find it really interesting. And why? Those roots in the beginning are so strong.
Well, I think the fact that you went back to in high school, I think kind of bookended your childhood.
Yeah, probably.
And plus it's the people, your connection with your grandparents most. Yeah. That probably really grounds you in that. I mean, my people were city people, but I don't have a thing for Queens, New York.
You don't have a thing for Queens? Well, I know I have a thing for I feel very comfortable in a blue collar world. Much more so but I'm fine in a white collar world. But I've been working at my house trying to get ready with all these guys that are building my house, and I'm super comfortable with them. Right. Because that's where my dad came from, where my mom kind of elevated us a little bit into a different, not that that's lower, but we got into that sounded bad. Elevated sounded bad. She shifted us into a different type of culture. And so, I think my heart of hearts chose the original culture I started in and stayed there and never kind of found my way out of it completely. Yeah. I'm most comfortable day to day working. Working, actually physically working like I've been doing on this house. I don't know. I just find that really fascinating because I think that's directly related to my childhood. It's not necessarily my wiring. Maybe it is, but I think it is my experience and where I felt most loved, and accepted.
And are you still close to your cousins and everything?
Oh, yeah. I'm really close to my dad's whole family. Yeah. Yes.
It's got to be it.
It's awesome. It's really a gift.
I used to have a cute little Southern accent.
You did?
I was in Texas.
From Galveston?
From Galveston. And when I first moved to New York, I was waitressing. And do y'all like something to drink? And I get big tips because, there was Memphis was kind of in the interim. I started waitressing in Memphis and there, when I moved to New York, I'd say the tip for the entire meal with drinks in Memphis is just the drinks in New York. And then you go, do y'all like some more coffee?
Yeah.
It just keeps going up. They loved it.
Yeah.
Where are y'all from?
Same with me. I made a ton of money as a waitress in New York City.
Yeah.
And here, actually, even here in California. Yep. How are y'all doing tonight? Got them. Like hook in the mouth.
That's what I actually worked at Graceland when we moved to Memphis.
Did you really?
The year before my mom died, they'd moved to Memphis. And so after she died, I worked at Graceland for a summer. And I got pulled from the gift shops they'd started an ice cream store that year. And there were 4 of us that got pulled to work there. And we had fruit punch and lemonade. So that's when I learned the Memphis accent. You just lean back. Fruit punch or lemonade?
Why'd you move so much?
I don't know. My dad he's a doctor. He's in academic medicine. And for some reason, instead of taking sabbaticals, he chose to move every 7 years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we moved from New York to Texas. And then my parents moved to Memphis when my sister and I were in college. And then 7 years after that, he and my stepmother moved to Philadelphia. And then he moved jobs within Philadelphia. And then he retired.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I wanted the sabbatical year, though.
Yeah, right?
In Australia.
Yeah,
That was my dream, not his.
Yeah. What'd you do at MTV?
I started at VH1 as a junior writer in the promo department, and then I moved up to the cool floor in MTV News and Specials. I started as an assistant to 3 different producers that did the documentary style stuff. And then like rockumentaries at the time, it was Sex in the 90s was a big show. And House of Style, I started on in its 2nd season. And then little by little, as I got more involved in each of my producers' projects, like those the assistant job went away, and I just became like a associate producer, then a coordinating producer.
That's awesome.
And then I left with one of my bosses who wanted to start his own company.
Okay.
And then didn't. And so I
started
started freelancing other places.
Why didn't he start his company?
He just, I guess, didn't. He's one of those guys that like, people just call all the time to do stuff. So he didn't actually really have to pursue projects that he could bring me or anybody else along with.
Got it. So he just kind of became a freelancer.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And was at a place where he could do that. And
I wasn't. So I went back.
Yeah.
I actually, though, I got to work at FX right when it launched.
Yeah.
And that was really cool because it was supposed to be an all live network. And they got this like full floor of a building in New York and made it like an apartment.
Oh, okay.
That we shot everything from. I mean, not the outdoor stuff, but everything was inside, like all the different shows used different rooms and everything.
Oh,
so that was really cool to work on a live show and be part of something like that. And then I got into reality TV, and that's when it stopped being that interesting.
Yeah. Not interested in reality.
Well, A, it's not reality. B,
it's not.
There's only so much of it you can do.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah,
it just isn't my thing.
It wasn't your
There
thing.
are great shows out there and great people making them.
Yes, totally.
Hey,
not every shoe fits every foot.
Exactly.
So that's okay. Bird did a show for FX called The X Show. Were you familiar with The X Show?
No.
It was a live show.
It was probably long after I was left to like, wait, it started in 96. I mean, I was there like the first 2 years.
Okay. I think The X Show was probably 99, 2000, somewhere around there. I don't know.
Oh no, that's when I moved out here. So yeah, no, my tenure was long over. I have the shirt from
Y2K.
the launch day.
Oh, from the launch day.
It embroidered. It was like June 1st, 1994.
Oh, there you go. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah.
94.
Well, that's because nobody had it. It was one of those things like nobody knew what I did for a living because nobody could see what I was doing because it would only showed up in like really small markets. Basically, Murdoch went and he bought up like all these little stations, I think, and then made a network. And then a few years later started turning and get into all the sports networks or something. I don't know. It got weird. And I just remember my first year, we got the video for Christmas. He gave us the video trilogy on VHS of Star Wars, Return of the Jedi.
No way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then next year we got Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh my God.
Like, do they have extras of these in the storage room?
Right? What's that about? What's that about? Do you like Star Wars?
I loved it.
Oh yeah, I love Star Wars.
Yeah, the original.
Me too. I'm not into all these.
No, I'll only watch The New Hope over again. The New Star Wars 4.
Yeah.
I won't do. I mean, I've seen Return of the Jedi and the other
Empire Strikes Back,
but I won't watch them again.
No, just a brave New Hope. Yeah, I've seen all of them. I decided to have a Star Wars themed party where we started at 7:30 in the morning and watched every single Star Wars feature film.
Oh my God.
One in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then what's after that? The Last Jedi or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one. And then no, not Mandalorian. That's a TV show. That's a series, not a film.
See, I don't
And then
know.
the other one that was Rogue One. That was a good movie. I have to say, Rogue One was really good. She watched all of them. It took us from 7 a.m. We watched until like midnight that night. We took a break to eat like a couple times and then got up the next morning at 7 a.m. and watched the last two.
How many people at this party?
Probably 8.
Did they all enjoy it?
Yeah. We had a blast. We took our couches. You know, our couches, as you know, are like perpendicular to the television.
Mm-hmm.
We made them parallel to the television,
nice.
one in front of the other, and put our little coffee tables in front of them.
Oh, sweet.
And I had a concession area, and I had I had a full standing cutout of Chewbacca, and it was freaking awesome. I had like a glowing Millennium Falcon, and we had a blast. I had this awesome Star Wars cake made. The top of it was a stormtrooper head or something. Or R2-D2's head or something. I don't remember, but we had a blast.
I actually saw Star Wars about 12 times the summer it came out because my sister was a huge science fiction freak, Star Trek, Star Wars, all that stuff. And she was also kind of the bully in the family. So whatever she wanted, we did. So she wanted to keep going to see Star
12
Wars.
times. Oh my God.
I mean, maybe not, maybe like 7, but it felt like a lot.
I saw it with my parents. And that was the last movie I saw with my parents when they were married.
Oh, wow.
And they divorced after that. It was my last
Because
movie.
of that?
Yes, probably. Darth Vader said, "You must divorce." No, I remember sitting between the two of them in the movie theater and being terrified of Darth Vader. I was 7. And he was like, the music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember. I guess I'd only seen like Disney cartoon type movies before that. The music is what really scared me. His theme song, dun, 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 done. I was completely done from that theme song.
It's very scary. Like the thing in the garbage still freaks me out.
Oh, totally. Totally freaky. Not just that they're being squashed, but there's that animal in there that wants to eat them. Oh, brr, and its eyeball comes up and looks around. No, forget it.
I don't do that.
No, I don't want to do that either. No. So you're in post.
I'm in post.
You have a director. You're getting to a point, and then you go to an editor, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So
easy as that.
How are you funding this? Do you have a GoFundMe or anything?
Well, interestingly, I have funded it various times through different things. Right now, though, I basically am under a fiscal sponsorship with the International Documentary Association, which means people can donate to the project through them. Nonprofit, so they can get a tax break or whatever.
Got it.
But they've just actually switched platforms to this very cool thing called We Did It, which I'm just in the process of setting up now. But it's something I've been waiting for because it has a lot of different things. Like I could do an online event and sell tickets or do things like that. So I'm going to try and get really creative with the rest of the funding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You could do an online event. Oh, that's really great.
Yeah. It's just like this one-stop shop for anything you can think of to raise money. So
how do people find it?
It'll be through my website, thisislandgoldens.com. It's not quite up yet, but I'm hoping September is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. So I'm hoping to be able to launch my new fundraising campaign by then.
Right.
I'll let you know. You can talk about it.
Please let me know. Yeah. Because I have to donate too.
That would be great. No, because what the thing that's really important to me is I'm trying to get people to donate in memory of somebody. So every donation, no matter what level, will have given in honor of so and so. But then there'll be different tiers too, if you want like pictures or quotes or things like that. Because I want to, as much as it's my story, it's not my story, and I'm trying to show it's everybody's story.
Yeah.
And so having like a long list of people that we're all willing to give something would just show how many people this affects, you know, because people don't know. I mean, as much as suicide prevention is being talked about now in mental health, it's like there's still these little niches of like the suicide loss survivors where they don't want to hear about it. People don't want to talk about it after it happened. It's one thing to try and prevent it, but once it's happened, it's like, no, too scary.
Yeah.
You know? so, or too weird or too whatever. So
too upsetting.
Yeah.
Who willingly walks in a door and goes, can I just be upset for an hour? That's why people don't go to therapy. Because if you don't get upset for an hour from time to time, you're not doing it right. And it sucks.
Right.
It's terrible.
It's hard.
But it's ineffective unless you're willing to go, I can be upset for an hour, or however long your therapy is. But okay, well then thesilentgoldens.com. Come back in September and check it out. Yeah. You can come back in September. We'll talk again if you want.
Oh,
That'd
cool.
be fun.
I'd love to.
But I have to go back to moving.
I understand. And I'm here to help if you need anything.
Well, not in that pretty dress. I can't put you to work in that pretty dress. It's too dusty in this house.
I left my dog clothes at your other house.
You did? Did you go to my other house before?
Yeah.
How were my dogs?
They're fine. Yeah. But your sister-in-law was there.
Oh, Cotty was there?
Yeah. And then your other sister-in-law came.
Yeah. She dropped off boxes. Yeah. They're moving into our old house, which is exciting. I think she's excited because she's brought stuff over there every day.
Yeah.
I mean, they live in a really nice condominium, but she has a 3-year-old. Yeah. He needs a yard. I think she's really looking for the yard. And their condominium's a 2-bedroom and they have 2 kids. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a great stepping stone for them to get to buy a house and have a little elbow room. Yeah, they don't have nearly as much stuff as we did. So
it's a fun place though.
It's a great little house.
It is.
We had so much love in that house and fun and happy memories. And it's really sad to leave it, but it's okay too, because we're in a different phase. That neighborhood is about young kids with a holiday parade and Halloween trick-or-treating. And our kids have outgrown all that. And even though it's still really cool, I'm super excited for Bert's sister to have her kids now start that process, because that little neighborhood, I swear, that little neighborhood is not LA.
Yeah.
I don't know how it ended up here, but it's not. I was actually doing my clothes at the laundromat because my dryer broke, as you know.
Yeah.
I know. And I can't get a dryer because they're, of COVID. Everything's kind of hard to get. So I've been taking my clothes to the laundromat, and the lady who works at the laundromat and I started talking. Her kids went to school with my kids. They're a little bit older, but they all were at the same elementary school, at the same middle school. And she said to me, this ain't like LA.
Right.
Like, I don't know what is in this little bitty part, but it's like a small town in the middle of this big city. And it just couldn't have been a nicer place to raise kids.
And that's how I met you. I mean,
yes, exactly.
Your friend Margaret, my friend Margaret, our mutual friend, is the one that's gotten me over half my jobs.
I am sure
within that area.
Yeah, because we all are neighborly. Margaret and I aren't best friends, but I'd say we're very good friends. And I mean, Margaret would help somebody 2 doors down she barely knew, because everybody in this neighborhood is just neighborly.
She's the one I called in a panic last year over Priscilla.
Yeah, I know. Well,
not to bring that up, but I mean, she was my go-to, because I'm like, she knows you, she knows me.
Priscilla. Yeah, she knows.
Who else would I go to?
Who else would you go to? It's such a great community. It's been an amazing experience. I'm sad to leave that community, even though we haven't really left. Right. We're a mile and a half away, but it's not really the same.
I know, but at least your foundations there are good. I mean, they're your friends forever.
They're my friends forever. That's the truth. I made friends forever, just with my kids going to elementary school and meeting like-minded, kind, neighborly, fun, happy people. Everybody that lives over there is happy. Ruth, I appreciate you so much. And I'm so happy for all this progress you've made.
Thank you.
It's really powerful, because the first time I met you, you seemed very fragile and very heavy and shaky, like you were on shaky ground. That was my impression. I didn't know you at all. I didn't know your history.
Yeah.
Margaret just said, I have this great person who's a dog sitter. Can you want to meet her? And I was like, of course. But I worried about you a lot, actually. I thought about you and worried, because you seemed very shaky, like on shaky ground.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Not that you were going to do nothing that was majorly wrong, but you just seemed really fragile, and you don't seem that way anymore.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's nice to hear. Sometimes I don't always feel good.
No.
But it's nice to hear. And I think in general, I am more solid, because I'm more sure of what I'm doing, because I've been doing it, and it's getting better and better.
Right.
All my clients are moving to these fantastic new homes.
I know. Tell me about it. But let me ask you this one more thing, and then I have to go. What are you going to do when this project is over?
I honestly think I'm going to just enjoy dog sitting because, part of the problem with doing two things is when you're doing the one thing, you always think you should be doing the other. And when you're doing that, you want to be doing the other. And I've always said, if I could just concentrate on one thing and just enjoy it for a minute, that's what, I'm hoping that the film leads me to speaking engagements and, touring with it or whatever. But, as far as solidly making money, if I was going to look for a job, I'd just continue expanding my dog sitting business. That's
really cool. That's great. Well, I'll continue to hire you as a dog sitter.
Thank you.
Forever and ever.
To say yes.
Right. Thank you for doing this today.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
It was fun.